There's something special in these stitches, because sewn into this fabric is all that was once good in Washington.
And I want you to know that each one of you has a small piece of this trophy today.
It's the grit and the glory. It's a city brought together with a spirit that made steel shake and opponents quake. It's 3 Lombardis, earned, not given. This isn't just a uniform. It's a reminder of who we've always been. Because history doesn't fade. It fuels the future. It's the same fight, same pride, same city behind it. We wear the past like armor, but we fight for what's next.
And if that doesn't get you riled up, man, I don't know what does. My goodness.
Bumps,
Welcome
baby.
in, everyone. Welcome in, everyone. It's not quite a new day in Washington football, but man, it kind of feels like an old day, right? If you go back about 30 years or so, right? Last time we wore these exact uniforms. They are considered the champion or the Super Bowl era uniforms, which unfortunately has been quite some time. And I guess the last time we wore these was when Gibbs was, you know, the head coach. So that was 2007, probably around that. Maybe Zorn. We wore him the Zorn era. But it's been a while, that's for sure. And with everything that we've been through, especially the past 5 years, ever since 2/2/22, when their whole rebrand happened, I mean, it's a new day. It feels like an old day, but it is a new day for at least a lot of fans, and I couldn't be more excited. Again, welcoming everyone. This is going to be primary topic today. So if you don't get up for uniforms and stuff like that, or this might not be the show for you, but I'm incredibly hyped. I'm incredibly excited, and Ben, I know that from an outsider's perspective. So Ben, you're not a huge Washington fan. So for most people, it's like it's a uniform, BFD, who cares, right? Again, context, right? We have been through the mud. We have been dragged through the mud. We have been, I mean, just absolute shame at some points. It has been a rough go of it for Washington football fans, for Washington Redskin fans, football team fans, Commander fans, however you want to describe us, right? And we got this taken away from us, 2/2/22, really back in 2020, but still. 2/2/22 was kind of nail in the coffin. And now this is just a glimpse of what we had, right? Because as you see in the title here, it's new uniforms, but I have a very small print alternate because unfortunately this isn't permanent. This is just an alternate that we're wearing for 3 games. But it is a big deal for a lot of fans, me included, because this is I'm wearing it right now. What used to be, and any glimpse of that, any slight sliver of that, we eat up because we hate what has been given to us.
Yeah, listen. I'm more than excited. I'm a massive NFL guy, and listen, I've always felt the uniforms of the late '80s, early '90s were the best for any, across the NFL, not just Washington, across the NFL. I just thought they had put so much work into making those uniforms look good. And Washington's uniforms specifically, those colors right there, the white that goes along with that specific color of reddish burgundy, whatever you want to call it, and that specific color of yellow, you start changing it, it does not look as good. And I realized the '70s uniform was fine. I'm not against that one. I didn't hate the color combos that they've used the past few years, but that none of them look as good as this right here. I mean, these were the true, pure, right colors. I'm a huge fan. Listen, it is a big deal to me. I mean, to me, it is a big deal. I can remember, I can remember in the late '90s there was a black color fad that went through college basketball and Major League
Hmm.
Baseball, and they just turned half the uniforms black for no good reason at all. And it's like, who wants to watch this? I want to see good, beautiful uniforms and colors. I'm a huge fan of this. I am so excited. We're going to talk about it from several different angles, but I am so excited, and especially by the video, man, that you played up front, watching Joe Gibbs all through the '80s, but especially that Buffalo Bills Super Bowl. I was a kid in a tiny bedroom sitting on the floor with my 24-inch TV sitting on the floor when I watched the Washington beat Buffalo in that Super Bowl, just smoke them. And I believe it was just a couple of weeks earlier, maybe 3 weeks earlier, they had smoked the Falcons in the rain that day. That was kind of the last of the true great ones. But boy, just getting to bring back a taste of that, a flavor of that, and you're pretty good too.
Yeah.
Hey, this isn't a sucky franchise anymore, my friends.
Now, obviously, I have a couple of, I don't know what to say, issues, minor gripes. One major one, but I will get to that later.
I got
I
one
will get
major
to
one
that
too.
later.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so obviously, and you mentioned the video. Hopefully, for our viewers, you saw the video. Not 100% sure if you did or not. If you
Right.
if you didn't see anything, technical error. My apologies. But hopefully you saw the video. It was very nice. If not, go to the Commanders YouTube page or Instagram, Twitter. It's up there. And I'm sure ESPN, Sports Illustrated, one of them had to have retweeted it at some point, I'm sure. But let's look at some of the photos, man, because man, I mean, look. I mean, just look at that.
Mm.
I mean, I mean, what you have on the left there, what you got on the right there. I mean, there's one difference that I'll get to, but it's pretty spot on. It's pretty spot on. And this is what a lot, unfortunately I did not. This is what a lot of people grew up with, you being one of them.
Yeah.
This is what a lot of people grew up with. This is familiar to them. And it's generally familiar to me too, because like I said, I started watching football when Gibbs was the head coach, second time around.
Right.
And this is what I'm used to. This is what I grew up on. And to know that it's back now, and even if it's a small sample size, only 3 games, it's still it's still there for me. And I have to cling to that as much as I can. Um this is the great photo, right? This is where, I mean, look, how can you even defend what's on the left there? Even if you like the newer uniforms, right? Even if you like them, how could you ever defend what is on the left there to what's on the right? And by the way, whenever these hideous looking things came out, everyone was like, "Oh, it's the same burgundy." Really? You're gonna look at these two photos juxtaposed here and say they're the same? Not even close. Okay. You're telling me that 9 is the same burgundy as that 5 burgundy? Ain't no way. Ain't no way, man. I'm sorry. I realize that maybe I'm not the most artistic. I don't have the greatest artistic eye for color and so forth. Nobody. If you show 100 people, are these the same color? 100 people are gonna say no. 100. And one of them could be colorblind. They'd still say no. I'm not defending these white jerseys. I hate them. I hate them. God, with a passion. They look like Louisville. They look like a college team or a college basketball team. I cannot stand them. I can't stand the gradient. But this is happy times. This is happy times. Okay. Actually, I lied. 3 small grapes. One large one, two other small ones. The helmet. So you'll see it here. The helmet is slightly different. Okay. I mean, we have the white stripes, which thank God they're back, but I want to say it's still, if you look at the old Redskin helmets, the the burgundy was like almost like a glossy type of, it wasn't the matte finish that the Commander helmets are. Okay, and I still think they're like that matte finish, and I hope it's not, because I don't like the look of that. I hope it's not the matte finish because because if you look on the left there, it just doesn't look right. And hey, we got the yellow face mask back. Thank God for that, because that maroon face mask looks ugly as all sin. Any reaction to that?
Yeah, agree completely. The yellow face, and listen, I know some people don't care about uniforms. Most of us do, okay? There's a whole bunch of
Right.
us sitting over here on X who care about uniforms, not just of the Commanders, but all over the league and all over sports. It's a part of what we're doing. It's a part of
Yep.
what we're connected to emotionally. Maybe we watched it with our dad, our brother, our whoever. We remember that. We've got an emotional connection to certain uniforms. And people put work into making them look good in the first place. So not only do you have the idea that somebody made them look good in the first place, but you got the emotional attachment. Heck yeah, it matters. Yes, it matters. The yellow face mask, love it. Just absolutely love it. And the white stripes, way more legit. Love that too. But you're right about the helmet color itself, the main helmet color. I still prefer what they had back in the 80s, the helmet color itself. I like that way better. I don't hate this, but I like that way better. So I'm hoping maybe down the road next year, like 26, maybe if they start, going full time with this, that they'll trip that over too. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. But man, here's just a look at some of it they got. The thing that I'm not used to is the font on the names. So that truly is from the 80s and 90s. I'm used to a slightly more updated, uh, different font. I believe the one that I grew up on, it was the outline was gold stitching. There is no outlining gold stitching with this, which is fine. I'm not it's not a grape, not one of my grapes, because this is truly the Super Bowl era uniforms. One thing that we got rid of when Nike bought out or I guess got the contract for the NFL uniforms is we no longer had the burgundy collar. As you can see on my jersey here, this is white collar, burgundy collar on the alternate uniforms, and it was that way for a very long time. But I'm glad that that's back. I always liked that touch. I was upset when we got rid of it, but I do like that.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm not attached to this font here. That to be honest, I don't even recognize that font from back in my days as a kid watching. I don't have any attachment to that. So if they change that out and tweak that to something that's been used more recently and looks better, I got no problem with that. I still like. I'm so happy that they switched over for 3 games, alternate jerseys to this
Mhm.
color set. This is beautiful. I can put up with a little thing or two not being quite right. I'm just really happy they switched over to this, though.
So one thing that I can tell you is going to be a criticism from some of the, I guess, new age fans or some of the fans that do like the Commanders' new uniforms is that if you look at especially the picture on the left and the picture on the right with Ertz and Daniels is you look especially with the Daniels one, it's very plain, which I like. I love it, but I know that there's going to be people that are like, it's very boring, it's very bland, it's very plain. To that, I will tell them to kiss it, but I can see from some perspective as to why this would be considered boring or bland.
Yeah, I understand that. And listen, at the end of the day, not everybody's going to be happy. And so you're going to have to ask if you're Washington ownership, who's, uh, what's the largest group here? And what are they going to like? And most of them like this. To maybe placate the younger group, maybe when we switch over to this full time, have some alternate jerseys that are more cool, hip, modern, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not against that. I would enjoy that too, a couple of times a year. Is that going to make them totally happy? no. But again, man, this is the look that I think most Washington fans are really going to be after, man. Anybody that's got a memory of even part of the good old days and the history of just the winning, this is the look right here.
So my assumption is if these uniforms or an iteration of these get made full time, that above the number it's going to say Washington or God forbid Commanders. It's going to have something on there to kind of literally take up the white space. Um, Maybe the numbers are a little bigger, maybe they're a little smaller. I don't know what else you can add to it. I hope nothing too flashy, or something like that. I don't know what else you would add to this. Um, I wouldn't be in favor of changing this too much, to make it a permanent thing. I can understand that they're gonna have to modify it a bit. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't want too much modification because
No.
it's as perfect, other than the one thing that I think everyone knows what the heck I'm talking about. Other than the one thing, it's perfect.
Yeah. Agreed. And again, I don't even mind. Let's say this is the white jersey. This is the plain one, right? And we
Right.
keep it plain. When we switch over to full color,
Yeah.
with and I haven't even seen. Are they going to go white pants for the full color, or is it going to be all color all the way?
They have not, as far as I know, these are the only ones that they have.
Okay. Okay.
I'm assuming obviously, if they go with these full time, that they're going to have to be a burgundy jersey with the white pants with the stripes on the side there.
Right.
Um, Obviously, other than the white stripe, it would be the burgundy stripe, but um, that's how it used to be, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming that that's how it would be if we went full time because you have to have two, like a home and away jersey. This would actually be the home jersey because Gibbs was the first coach with Washington that made the white jersey the primary home jersey. So the white was home, the burgundy was away. So I'm assuming that it would be the same, being made permanent. Um, I would hope that they would have it the same, just burgundy and white numbers. But again, I know there's going to have to be some tweaks made, just hopefully not too many.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just throw out my stuff real quick here. I like this. If somebody says it's too plain, I get it, but maybe this could just be the white version, which is plain-er, not super plain. Then you have the color version, the color jersey, right? With hopefully the white pants. I prefer the white. I know that in itself is a split because I know some people prefer the yellow pants, and I get
Yeah.
that kind of model as well. So again, within the NFL rules and the alternate jersey stuff, maybe you also have a yellow pant uniform you can wear part of the time in the future to go along with the main white pants with the color burgundy jersey, which is my
Yeah.
favorite. If if they're looking at the color burgundy jersey and going, hey, that's too plain, I don't mind the commander's name, whatever team name it is, whether it's commanders or something else, being right here with the double lines on it on that colored jersey. I don't prefer
Mhm.
it, but I don't hate it either. Out of all the things they changed on the uniforms the past few years, that one I didn't mind so much. There was lots of other stuff I didn't like, such as
Yeah.
the W on the helmet and the black alternates and burgundy from top of head to toe. I don't like that, but the name commanders in yellow with double line top and bottom, I was okay with that part of it. So anyway, that's some of what I would prefer and not prefer, and you know, we'll see.
I would really love it if they just made these the primary pants, honestly. Like just to have the stripe on the pants. Because right now on our pants, there's nothing, you know. But again, you know why they won't do that
Yeah,
is because the burgundy, I guarantee you, if if those burgundy pants were with the burgundy, quote unquote, burgundy jersey, you would notice a difference.
you
You
would.
would you would certainly notice a difference. I would bet every cent that I have that would be the case. That if you put on that burgundy jersey, it is not going to match those pants.
It's not. It's different. I can see more red in the modern look, so
Yeah.
it's not going to match.
But again, here's just more, and I might as well just address it. The problem, it's
Yes.
the helmet. The helmet's the
Yes.
problem.
Right.
Not the front of the helmet,
Nope.
not the stripes.
Nope.
But if this is a true throwback,
Yep.
this is a true throwback uniform. Needs to be on it.
Right.
Needs to be on
Yeah.
it. I'm sorry. This, like I said, it's like 99% there. It's just that one, like, what is it, like 4x4 area on the helmet on both sides that just, it needs fixed. Needs
Yeah.
fixed.
I agree, and I know why they haven't done it. I
I
get
know
it.
too, but
And in that town of all towns, and listen, if you're listening and you disagree, I'm sorry. We're just putting our opinion out there, and you can have yours. But I loved every part of that old uniform, from especially the '80s in particular.
mhm,
I had respect for it. I never thought anything derogatory about it, and I realize some people do, and I respect that. I respect their opinion to think something bad about it, but I didn't. I loved it, and I always thought of it as heritage. And to be honest, I mentioned this on the show a few weeks ago. That Native American heritage has disappeared. It has vanished.
mhm,
If you are 15 years old or younger today, other than what you've read in a history book, you probably see nothing about Native Americans ever anywhere. It has vanished. And it used to be everywhere. And I know that's a bad history, right? That's not a pretty history. But still, those people existed. They had traditions. They still exist. They have traditions. They have beauty. They have things we liked. And they have culture. And we have vanished it. It is gone. You don't see
yep,
it anywhere ever. And you don't hear about it unless it's a team name or unless it's history class, right? Which they don't even call it history, right? But you get what I'm saying.
yeah.
And so no, I agree.
My contention is this, or rather my thought on it is this, that Harris doesn't want to do anything that could potentially jeopardize a very liberal city like DC.
Yeah,
Does not want to do anything to potentially risk losing RFK. I think
right.
once RFK is raised and the first shovel is in the ground and the stadium has started and the ink is dry on that contract, that it is possible that at least the logo would come back.
Yeah,
Because if that comes back and there's no stadium deal, they have every reason to not approve it. They do not have to approve it. They
right.
don't have to.
Yeah,
So I think once the ink is dry and once the old RFK is raised or torn down, that then he'll change it. Because I don't think he
yeah.
wants to risk it.
And I don't blame him.
I
Listen,
wouldn't either. I paid $6 billion. If I paid $6 billion for something, I wouldn't want to risk it either.
I don't blame him either. Even money aside, let's just say it's people's opinions, right? I'm glad we live in a country where people's opinions still matter, right? Like,
Yeah.
some countries it doesn't. In some countries, 90% of y'all's opinions don't matter, right? My opinions don't matter. In certain countries on this planet, we live in a country where your opinions do matter. So I'm glad, but you put the money back into it, the stadium and everything. I don't blame him for wanting to proceed with caution. And listen, everything's been so good, right? Man, everything
Yep.
has been so good, warm, fuzzy. You couldn't ask for a better start to the Harris regime. And so, even from that standpoint, you don't want to bring in too much. You don't want to ruin the good time, right? So, I get it. There's a lot involved here, and again, you're not going to make everybody happy. The logo itself, I loved. If the name never comes back, that's not going to bother me at all. But the logo itself, I loved that logo. I thought it was beautiful on those uniforms. I really did.
And I will tell you, it still is the best uniform. And we've talked about this on air, I believe on air. If not,
Right.
it's definitely been a discussion off air. that our old uniform was the best in the NFL. I'd like to say hands down, but it's hands down. It's top 5.
All right, you're gonna hate me,
Yeah.
but okay, and I'm sorry, Commanders fans, if y'all listening.
Oh boy, here it
don't
goes.
don't go away. Please don't go away, because Robertson would rather have you than me. But I loved the Eagles uniforms of the late '80s as well. I thought
That's
those
fair.
were beautiful.
That's
And
fair.
I personally, I may be the minority on this, I loved the New York Giants uniforms of the late
Yep.
80s with the word Giants written on the side. I just thought that was so beautiful. So, but those 3 uniforms were right up there in my top 4 or 5 of all time. I'd have to sit and think about who else would be right there with them, but agreed. Loved it.
Yeah. Well, you lost some fans there,
I'm
Ben.
sorry.
I'll agree. Like, look, I hate the Eagles. Okay. I hate that stupid green that they wear.
Of
I
course.
hate it. But if we're talking about classic jerseys, that Kelly green jersey that they wore with,
Yes.
it was just like that Kelly green helmet with the white wings on it. That's a classic look.
It
I
is.
respect it, I prefer that look as opposed to, I don't even know what color green it is. It's not an army green. It's just almost like a dark blue green type
Yeah.
of. I've never liked that. I've never liked that green. The Giants with the old uniforms with the giant, it was the white numbers with the red outline with the red stitching.
Okay.
I always liked those. Um, in turn, like as much as you can like an ugly uniform. I've always liked those better than the ones that they had. And the ones that they had, was it last year, 2 years ago, something like that? It was supposed to be reminiscent of like the old 40s and 50s with like the leather helmets and stuff like that. Those were just honestly laughable. They were ugly as sin. Um, but anyways, I still contest that Redskins logo and Redskins uniforms were some of the best in the NFL, and that logo, I mean, you can't beat that. Best
Yeah.
logo.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Time will tell. This may be the first of several steps in. Listen, I I get it that it's Commanders for now and that it's W on the helmet for now. I hope eventually they get rid of that. It's not a great look in terms of even the font of that W on the helmet just isn't a great font. There are better fonts to be had. If you're going to leave the W, give me a better font, right? Give me a
Yeah.
Western font or listen. There's a number of fonts that would be better than that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's terrible. Um, just wanted to share with you a couple tweets here from Albert Breer. Commanders unveil beautiful new alternates. Bank on these becoming permanent in 2026. Just how the Jets went from the 80s throwbacks being alternates in 2023 to permanent last year.
Yeah.
So if we're on that same track, then it would be 2027, not 2026. But hey, as long as they become permanent or more prevalent, I'm fine
Yes.
with that. JP Finlay, you probably don't know him. He's one of the bigger beat reporters around here, has radio shows, TV shows, and so forth. Says he loves the rollout of the Super Bowl unis. Only on the biggest stage are these going to be seen. Two
Okay.
Sunday night games, and then against Dallas on Christmas Day. So
Nice.
basically 3 primetime games. And he's saying that it's going to have some serious nostalgia, especially playing Dallas. I can't wait for that. That's going to be so much fun to see that. Even at that point in the season, even if we have a horrible record and things have just not gone well, it's still going to be so nice to see that. And I saw this tweet too that I thought, it is it's pretty accurate in my opinion. Again, opinion here, but pretty accurate. These look nearly perfect because they're literally just the Redskins uniforms without the iconic logo. I mean, it is true. Just bring it back and restore the best uniforms in the NFL. Again, we just went through it. We just went through it. But to me, it is 1000% true um, that they were the best uniforms in the NFL. Um, your reactions to those?
Listen, I love everything these folks are putting out. It's inspiring me for other thoughts too. But you're not going to get any disagreement with me about any of what they're saying and what you're saying. And I do like it. They saved it for some of the special days already. So 2 Sunday night football games and Christmas Day. And that even listen, the top thing I'm really excited about, besides this return to a tradition that I love, is hopefully no more of this black uniform crap. I mean, if they want to do it once a year and really shine it up, modernize it, give us, along with the black, give us like some shiny gold to go with it. Just really amp it up instead of some kind of hyper. Get me away from that, and then get me away from this full top to bottom burgundy look. I just get me away from that, please. But on Thanksgiving Day, if Washington is going to play, I would love to see them. Or Thanksgiving weekend even. I would love to see them maybe pull out the 70s jersey. I think that would be a great time for some great memories of the 70s games on Thanksgiving weekend there to bring back, whether it's Thanksgiving Day or not, bring back some of the yellow pant jerseys from the 70s would be a great time for that. So we're heading in the right direction with all of this.
So actually, the Sunday night game, the one against Denver, that is going to be actually Thanksgiving Day weekend.
Already Thanksgiving Day weekend.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that's going to be the uniforms worn that weekend, that Sunday night game, which could be flexed, I believe, but I don't believe it will be. Yeah. We've talked a lot about it. Obviously, we just mentioned some of the games they're going to be playing. First time is November 2nd against Seattle. Already looked at tickets. Already mostly sold out. Not all the way, but it's
nice.
It's nosebleeds, and I think last time I looked, it was like over $150 some odd for nosebleeds, which is like
for nosebleeds.
I'd love to, but can't. Sorry. But yeah, Seattle, the Denver one. I'm actually excited for that one because I would hope that Denver would do the right thing here and wear their throwbacks
right. Yes.
This weekend. And it'll just be like, which is a rough memory for them, but it'll just be like, Super Bowl. I'm a terrible fan right now. I can't remember what number the Super Bowl was, but that Super Bowl where Doug Williams went off, became a household name in, Washington, in America, in sports. 5 touchdown passes. Again, 4 touchdown passes because 2 were by Timmy Smith, but just amazing stuff. He was MVP of the game. I would love for them. I would love for Denver to do the right thing here and wear their throwbacks. I forget, it was the orange jersey, blue helmet. If they even still have those, if that's still one of their throwback uniforms they wear, I'd love for them to do the right thing and wear it.
They do. They've been. As a matter of fact, I'm not part of it, but I've seen it. There's a push from some of us, the uniform lovers, to get Denver to switch back to that uniform as full time as well. Like there's quite a few people who just love that uniform. I think that was one of the better uniforms, while we're talking about it. But I totally agree. Having those 2 uniforms on the same field again together would be beautiful. Those were good uniforms. Sometimes I understand the need for change. I understand the need sometimes, but you're dealing with branding here. And people would literally kill for some of the brand recognition that some of these NFL teams already have and have had for a long time. There are other leagues that would kill for the brand recognition. And for people to it's a little bit, I don't want to say ignorant, that's too mean and too strong. It's not intelligent to me to be changing brand recognizable uniforms with long histories and traditions that look great. Check. Moving off of those to new things just for the sake of modernization and change, you are losing some of that brand recognition that people are jealous of, would kill for, pay lots of money for. You already have it in a uniform, in one uniform.
Mm-hmm. Well, Seattle realized it. Seattle being one of those teams that realized that. They changed things up.
Yep.
For a while, mid 2000s, they changed it up with, the days of Holmgren and Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander, that they changed to those more plain blue looking uniforms. And then
Yeah.
when, it was Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, then it really changed to something modern, which some people really liked, but man, that was ugly. If we're being honest here, that was ugly. And then they went back to the old logo, a updated old logo, but still,
Yeah.
generally speaking, the old logo and the old uniforms, the old throwback uniforms.
Right.
One thing, brand recognition, Dallas has never changed.
No. No.
I know, like especially on Thanksgiving, they would wear the star without like any of the white outline,
Hmm.
and that has actually looked kind of cool. I've always kind of like of the Dallas's ugly, horrific uniforms. I've always kind of been partial to that one. Um, they've never once rebranded. They've never once majorly changed uniforms.
Right.
Um, they never had any variations really of the logo other than without the white outline. Um, it's always been the same ugly uniforms for 70, 80 years now. And that's brand recognition.
It is.
Steady. Like if they ever rebranded, it would go horribly.
Right. And listen, you have leagues like the WNBA, like some of the hockey leagues. You have them fighting to try to get brand recognition. And here with some of these, the Steelers, the Packers, the 49ers to a large degree. They've tinkered with the uniform, but they've never just redone the whole darn thing to something completely different. There's an understanding there that we've got something that not only do people recognize, like a McDonald's or a Bojangles, but we have something that people feel something about. They like it, or maybe they hate what it represents, but they still love the colors and everything about it. Why would you change that? It's not smart.
Yeah, I mean, for example, if you wore a gosh, I don't even know. If you wore a San Francisco 49er jersey, if you went back in time to the 80s or even the 70s
Yeah.
and you were wearing if you were wearing I don't know, a Brock Purdy or Christian McCaffrey jersey,
Hmm.
they'd look at you a little confused, but they'd be like,
Right.
"Yeah, that's a weird looking 49er jersey, but yeah, it's a 49er
Right.
jersey."
Yes.
If you went back, like if you were wearing I don't know, a Miami Dolphins, one of these new Miami Dolphins jerseys,
Hmm.
and you went back in time and be like, I think that's a Miami Dolphins jersey. Like, what the heck did you do with that? Or even like a Minnesota Vikings, what they've done with
Right.
they used to have really good, and it wasn't always that pure purple that they have now,
Right.
but man, that used to look
Right.
so good. And
It
I
did.
think they've thrown back a few times, but man, that used to look so good back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. Agreed. The Vikings jersey looked better before. I
Yep.
understand it's a richer, more pure purple now. I don't like it as good. The Rams jerseys, while structurally they haven't changed very much, the colors are more of kind of a plastic, cartoony look.
Yeah.
Not as good as what they had from the late '70s all the way through, and even they had it they switched it up to more of the goldish colors in the late '90s and early 2000s, which I didn't
Hmm.
hate, but still did not have that kind of classic look that a lot of people. And there was another team I forgot, but anyway, yeah. Why monkey with stuff
Yeah.
just for the heck of change?
Yeah, Packers are a good example of that too. You take a Jordan Love jersey back to the 70s or 80s, they're gonna be like, "Hey, yeah, that's a Green Bay Packer jersey." It's
Right.
always been the
Right.
same.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. So
Because CONCACAF, great content they're putting out, a lot of content they're putting out.
yes.
It seems to be soccer season or football season. Um, just a lot of stuff they're putting out. There's Ben, you know more about this than I do, but something with the Gold World Cup, something or Club World Cup that's been going on. That they're doing a lot of content and stuff for. So I don't have the notes in front of me. I forgot to take notes before we started recording about the new stuff that they put out. But make sure they're putting out a lot of content. If you're interested in soccer content, make sure you're go on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you're subscribed to Because CONCACAF. Anything to add there, Ben?
Yeah, Dom and Andy have been putting out a ton of shows lately. So, and listen, I don't know my soccer very well, but they do. and they cover a bunch of different stuff, and they've covered a bunch of it this summer. Like, they are on fire right now. So go check them out. Andy and Dom calls CONCACAF.
And I'll be selfish here. Shout out our own podcast.
Thank you.
Odds on favorite. Make sure you go subscribe to there as well, wherever you get your podcasts out. Last week what good Lord, what did we do last week? AFC, no, that's next week. What did we do last week, man?
We did the West. We hit the Chiefs and the Raiders and the other people in that division.
Yep.
Very good work.
Yep. And Ben, of course, thinking his Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl again. We kind of came to the same agreement, but I'll tell you this. We were generally aligned with our AFC West predictions.
Yes.
Ben was some more bullish on other teams than I was. I was a little bit more harsh on a couple of teams. But make sure you go check it out. Previewed the AFC West. We were doing every single division. So regardless if it's NFC East, we already did it. Go take a listen to that. We break down each position group of every team in the division. We give our floor record predictions and ceiling record predictions. Like, for example, I think I said Washington was between 9 and 13, 14 wins, something like that. So we did stuff like that. So go check that out, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast as well. So, what do you notice from, if you were putting out a marketing photo for the Washington Commanders,
right?
Who would be in this photo?
Well, obviously the quarterback would be first, right? He would be, yes, easy. Right. After that, I'm hard pressed to put anybody but Scary Terry number 2.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay.
He's not in any of the photos, if you noticed. Not
well, darn.
a single one of them. So that was one of the gripes that I had, is that Scary Terry is nowhere to be found in any marketing material that Washington has been putting out over the past several weeks. And you can imagine why, because he has not been present at the team facilities, because he's holding out, because he only has 1 year left in his deal with no guaranteed money left. And he wants his money, man. He wants it bad. Just a quick update, because I think it's been a while since we talked about it, that Terry McLauren, apparently, who knows if this is true or not, apparently he's not happy. He thinks he's worth a certain amount. Teamworks, he thinks that he's worth another amount, and they're apparently far apart. Some encouraging signs are that I believe it was over the 4th of July weekend that Magic Johnson posted on his story of him on his yacht in Italy, working out on this yacht, and it was this big panoramic like drone shot of him running on this treadmill on a yacht. It pans out and there's just Italy there. No more than 5 minutes later, Terry McLauren posts him on vacation in Italy. So you'd like to think that, okay, they may or may not have run into each other at some point, maybe. I find that a little coincidental, that, okay, maybe he's trying to work some things out for future planning and so forth. Maybe not contract wise, but just kind of talking, to the team in some capacity. With Magic Johnson, I don't know if you know or not, but he has been very fond of Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson's been very fond of Terry, and it seems that they have a good relationship going. So this is not a big surprise, So an encouraging sign though, nonetheless. Another thing was from Adam Schefter. He was on the Pat McAfee show, and he stated that yes, they are far apart right now on a deal, and that Terry's not happy, but he anticipates the TJ Watt deal getting done in Pittsburgh, and he also anticipates the Terry McLaurin deal getting done before training camp. So he said, everyone anticipates these 2 deals getting done. So that is also an encouraging thing. But On Sunday, again, agent said Terry's not happy. So it's not conflicting, but it is saying like, hey, I'm still here. I still don't have a deal done, and we're approaching training camp here in a few weeks. It's getting close. Um, I would love to see Terry McLaurin back in this jersey right here. I want to see him in these pictures. I want to see him in these stupid clips we get from training camp and mini camp of Jane Daniels and Terry McLaurin out there in shorts. Just playing pitch and catch. I want to see those clips again. I need to see them again. The importance of Terry McLaurin being at training camp cannot be understated. Um, it just needs to get done. Unfortunately, there's not many updates outside of that. I'm thinking, based on how long this is taking, that the DK Metcalf deal is really kind of putting a wrench into things because he got 33 a season. And I remember when me and you talked way back in, what was that, late January, early February, that we were going to be surprised if he got 30 or 31 million. So now that these new deals have gotten done, it's a little bit different now. So I'm assuming that McLaurin's pushing for at least 33, if not 34, 35.
I would think so as well. And listen, I get it. People don't want to give it to him. I totally understand that. Totally understand the Commanders not wanting to give it to him. But it goes to show when a player or an agent, either one, or the two of them together, when they get a number in their head, and that number doesn't match your number, you're going to have a problem. And some teams can circumvent that a little bit by signing a player to a contract extension a year or two earlier before you even kind of get to this point. But that's not always easy, because even back then, the agent doesn't just wake up one morning and go, Metcalf got 33, so we should ask for 36 or 35 and hopefully get 33 or 34. That's not what happens, right? The agent and McLaurin, they've already got a number in their mind. Even before Metcalf signs his, Metcalf signing his just only adds to what they think, support the number that they've already got in their head. So, people say, well, this deal should have been done back in the spring, or should have been done, after the draft. It should have just got done. Not if you're far apart. Who's supposed to give in? What if nobody wants to give in? What if the player and their agent just don't want to give in, and the team doesn't want to give in? Well, that's when you have these stalemates, and it's not unusual. Every summer we'll see one or two NFL teams that have a player. You're far apart. It drags all summer. We saw it 2 or 3 years ago with Chris Jones and the Kansas City Chiefs, but we see it every year, and even Chris Jones was a week or two before he got back in, and he came back without his deal, which I don't think he should have, but he did. He played well. The team won a Super Bowl that year, and he got his deal after that, and I would not have advised him to do that, but he did. Sometimes you're just far apart, and sometimes it's going to drag all summer, and you hope it doesn't, but sometimes it drags into the season as well. And at a certain point, somebody's got to give in, and that's negotiations, man. It's not always pretty, and it's not always easy, and giving in early means somebody had to drop or raise their number, and that's why it didn't get done weeks or months ago.
So what you GM Ben here, GM Parker, or GM, I made a name for you like a year ago of what your name was, and I can't remember what it was now, but
that's probably good.
Anyways, putting your GM hat on, which you always have on anyway, but still, what would you be comfortable paying Terry? And follow-up question to that: when would you be concerned? When do you start being concerned, majorly concerned? At what point in time if a deal does not get done?
Yeah, my number one desire as a GM, build the team, get everybody together, let's roll. My number two desire is let's make sure everybody's reasonably happy with what they're getting. And if they're not, we're going to have problems all year. Even if they're in the building, right? They're going to be kind of sour grapes. So I've always, you look back at the old Commanders regime with the Trent Williams thing years ago, where they just basically parked him for a while. That was awful. You never want to go through that. So that to me is a worst case. Um, it, my thing is, if you guys are so far apart that you just can't put a deal together, then trade him. Move on. Do not let this thing linger into the season. Would be really my method. Now, I remember the Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien, with I think it was DeAndre Hopkins. They had a front loaded deal, and Hopkins got through with the first 2 years, the richer part of the deal, and then was like, "Hey, I want a new deal. I'm not the top five money anymore." And Bill O'Brien just lost his mind, right? I mean, I don't blame him because Hopkins got through the richest part of the deal and then wanted a remake, right? If you got a guy who's unhappy and wants a certain number, you can get him that number, but you're going to have to convince his agent to back off somewhere else. So if I'm totally okay with giving him the 33 or 34 if that's what he's got in his mind, but then I want the guarantees to come down. I want some, considering that he is 31, I forget which it is.
He's going to be 30 sometime during the season.
30 during the season. So considering that he's pushing on that, I'd be far more interested in working down the guaranteed amount. And, if he's got a high cap number, I mean, really, people talk about it. There's not a huge difference between 30 and 34 in terms of overall cap numbers. Man, we're dealing with tens and hundreds of millions of dollars on these caps. And you can always figure out a way to finagle around, even if you have to restructure just a little bit. Don't restructure a lot. Restructure a little bit if you gotta. Washington doesn't have to. They're fine on cap space right now. If I was Washington, I would bend a good bit to get this deal done. Let's keep everything going smooth and good. What's an extra 3 or 4 million cap wise? It's not like you've got another receiver sitting over here who's also wanting a break the bank deal like Cincinnati had. You've got this young quarterback on a nice deal for a couple more seasons before you got to really pay him. I would get this deal done, but I would try to get the agent to move down on the guarantees if the cap number is going to go up, and that would really be the way I would handle that. You did ask when I would be concerned.
Yes.
I personally am not concerned during training camp. Sometimes these veterans don't want to be in there anyway. That
Right.
goes all the way back to the 90s when I was a kid watching and back to the 70s before I was born. Okay. Sometimes these vets just are not worried about getting into the building for training camp. They just don't care. All right. They're all about the team and they're working out, but they don't care necessarily about doing the training camp thing. So when the season gets close, that's when I'm worried. Training camp can come and go. I'm not worried as a GM, but if it starts to influence the season, we've got a real problem for my sake.
I would say if it's not done, I would be majorly concerned if we're like 2 or 3 days away from training camp and we're not hearing any progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be incredibly concerned about that. My number is pay him whatever you want because we see this all the time. First of all, it's going to be a short deal. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's more likely than not it's going to be about 3. I can't really see it being 4. I'd love it to be 4 or 5, but it's probably going to be a 3-year extension with some of that money going to get pushed to this year because he's probably going to want to raise, and I think we have the cap space to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a 3-year deal, and even if it averages out to be 34, 35, at the end of that deal, that's going to look like a steal, just because I'm sure Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's probably going to get a deal. There's probably going to be another receiver, an A.J. Brown, he's probably going to get his deal reworked here soon. Devontae Smith, he's going to need paid, I think, here soon. Like, there's a lot of these receivers that are going to be getting paid, probably either around what Terry makes or even more than that, and they're probably not the caliber of Terry. There's about, maybe you could argue, a dozen to 15 guys that are better than him, and the guys below him are going to be getting deals that are much higher than his. So in about 2-3 seasons, when that deal was in the last year of his contract, be like, hey, you're like the 20th, 25th ranked or paid receiver here, and we think you're a top 10 guy. That's quite a steal there.
Yeah, you'd be right on that. Again, assuming he's holding up. But listen, I'm GM all the way. That's always my perspective. I'm not necessarily trying to climb in the players' shoes here and have empathy for the players. That's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
The point is, though, you got a good player, and you got a lot of good stuff going on here in Washington, and you're not tight on cap space. Let's just go ahead and get him in the building, even if you have to give in a little bit. Now, again, behind closed doors, we don't know exactly for sure what he's asking for. We get reports sometimes, but you never know for sure depending on who's leaking that report, right? So if he's sitting there asking for a 4-year deal at, $35-36 million a season with a, 60-70% guarantee, then I'd be shutting down negotiations too if I'm Washington, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I doubt he's asking for that. More than likely, you're right. It's probably looking for a 3-year deal. I'm okay with that. Check. He's probably asking for 33, 34. I'm okay with that. Check. And if he wants the first 2 years of that guaranteed, I'll do that. I don't want to guarantee season 3 because of the age thing, but I'll guarantee those first 2 seasons and let's just move on. It's just not that big of a deal. People talk about, $500,000 being a big deal and trying to find room for that. Nonsense, man. You can squander $20 million easy on a bad free agent decision, right? A guy that you think is going to come in and play good for you. You already know this guy. He's excellent. He's been excellent. He looks like he's going to continue to be excellent. There's no guesswork here as to what he is, So let's just go ahead and move that money on up if indeed, assuming it's not a ridiculous ask, and I kind of doubt that it is.
My opinion on that is, okay, it's a 3-year deal. Okay. Where the roster is right now, it's not. Yes, are we trying to compete for a Super Bowl? Yes, but the roster we've talked about this. The roster doesn't reflect that. Okay,
Right.
so even if Terry does not live up to this contract, okay, who cares?
Right.
It's easy for me to say that because it's not my money, right? But if he doesn't live up to the contract, where else are we spending it? Not anywhere this season. I doubt next season too, because again, half the roster is going to turn over because of all these 1-year deals. Where else would we be spending this money?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure somewhere, right? But like, what are we going to get? Like a mid-level corner, linebacker, other receiver, maybe? But like, if it, based on where the roster is right now, it's not going to turn around just like that in 2 years. There's still a lot of and we've talked about this. There's still a lot of building. Still need a lot of draft picks to come in here. A lot of young guys to come in here, revamp this team around. We're a very old roster, very old. I think we are the oldest roster in football. It's going to take some time to rebuild this thing. 2 years, 3 years, Terry doesn't work out or he doesn't live up to the contract. BFD, man, big freaking deal. Okay,
right.
The intention was there. We have to win a Super Bowl. We got to do it while Jaden's on his rookie deal. And Terry's part of that equation. Even if you overpay, even if he doesn't live up, who cares? The intention is there. You have to keep the primary weapon. I don't care what he's asking. Pay him. Okay.
Yeah,
Stadium. Oh,
I'm
sorry,
very close on you there. No,
Yeah.
I'm very close on all of that because let's say you trade Terry, right? Well, now you've got this other huge, massive, gaping hole at wide receiver now. In addition to holes we already know on the roster, you're not better this year. What if you had let go of Terry and brought in, made the trade for a Metcalf? You're not any better off. You're in the same freaking boat with a guy you're not even totally sure will work on your team. What if you had let go of Terry and drafted a guy? Well, then you didn't, at wide receiver, I mean, then you missed a draft pick somewhere else. I don't see where you're better off not paying him or him leaving the building. You're not. So let's, again, assuming it's not a ridiculous ask, let's get him paid. Let's get it done.
All right. So also in this picture is a mock-up of RFK.
Ah, yes.
So update on that really quick. Unfortunately, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here. Right now, according to sources, The DC Council has four yeses, four noes, and three undecided. Because I think there's 11 members right now. There's supposed to be 12, but there's only 11. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. So the three undecideds are really going to ultimately decide this thing getting passed. Um, Josh Harris, Commanders, they want the stadium open by 2030. There's a July 15th deadline. I don't know the exact details behind the deadline, what happens if they don't get it done by the 15th. I think, and I tried to find it beforehand, I could not find it anywhere in writing. I think that after July 15th, that the exclusive deal that the Commanders or the team has, or DC has with the team, rather, I think that ends. I think. If it's not, it's going to end soon. It's going to end like in August or September, which, if it doesn't get approved by July 15th, fully anticipate this going into August, potentially September, in terms of getting voted on. One of the council members, last name Mendelson, he, on June 20th, introduced a bill that keeps this separate from the 2026 budget in DC, um, which means that this probably isn't going to get included on the 2026 budget, at least at this time. So some people like that, other people don't, because it's not going to get voted on immediately if it does get passed. And the team wants this passed immediately. The Mayor Bowser, wants this passed immediately. It's just a whole, the DC's perspective. They want as much time as possible to look at this deal to get the best deal for the taxpayers, which I respect that, right? If it's my government, I want them doing the same thing, right? I want the best deal possible because I don't want to be paying for this thing. At the same time, Commanders are like, why hasn't this been done yet? Like, if you want a counteroffer, give me a freaking counteroffer, right? Like, what is taking this happened back in April? Else do you need to look at? You're telling me in 3 months you haven't looked at it yet? Like, or you haven't at least come up with a counter or some sort of solution? I mean, there's a lot of things here. Um, like there's the city is going to be financing the parking deck that's going to go next to the stadium. Who gets the revenue from that? Is it the team or is it the city? Um, the team is not going to be paying rent on this land, even though DC is able to lease it out. The team would not be paying rent, so that's a point of contention. Um, there's a lot of like, do they use union workers? Do they not use union workers? That's a point of, I don't want to say a bargaining point, but one of the issues potentially with the deal. Um, there's a lot going on here, right? And a lot for the council to look at, a lot for the team to look at. But again, the team's like, you need to be working day and night to get this sucker done. Like,
Yeah.
what's taking us so long here that you can't even give us a counter offer or ask us things to get fixed or adjusted? I mean, it's a fair point on both sides, but it's a little frustrating. And I will ask before I let you talk that Mayor Bowser was asked on one of the local radio shows her concern level from a scale 1 to 5, 1 being lowest, 5 being like, incredibly concerned, and it was a 4. So I think that's pretty high. That's like DEFCON 2.
Yeah, it doesn't sound the greatest, but this is a story almost as old as sports itself, right? I mean, listen, I pulled a book off my shelf called Major League Losers by Mark Rosentraub, which covered stadiums and sports, stadium building, who's paying for it. There are people who don't want any stadiums built that any taxpayer puts out any dollars for. I got that. That's fine. I get it. For people who just don't want to put out any money, that's totally fine too. And especially right now in the DC area with the funding cuts that you mentioned, also affecting that as well. It's really difficult to put together a budget and throw a stadium in there. So they put that apart, for better or worse. It's like, no, let's look at this individually. But if so, listen, I understand anybody in the DC government who's like, we don't want this because of the expenditure to taxpayers. I get that. I also understand anybody in the DC government who's like, we're open to it, but we need more time to look at it. We want to take our time. And welcome to politics, okay? Because this is
Yeah.
nothing different than you and I talked about months ago when we first started this conversation. We said exactly this. It takes time. There's lots of red tapes. There's lots of details to hash out. It is not. It's going to be like a winding river, right? It is not going to be quick. But if you're the Commanders, you're sitting here. If you're Josh Harris, you're like, man, the team's good. I invested a bunch of money. We're ready for a new stadium right now. We're open to staying in D.C., where a lot of people want them to be, right? There are even people, and listen, there are people who don't want D.C. to pay for the stadium who want the stadium to be in D.C. because they just believe that's where it ought to be, which is fine too. I get that. That's totally fine to feel that way. But if you're Josh Harris, you're sitting there and you're like, I either want a stadium here or I'm going to get it over there, but I want it someplace. What I don't want if I'm Josh Harris is to sit here and talk or not talk for 2 years and still not have a stadium deal in place, right? Wherever it's going to be. So I don't blame Josh Harris at all for trying to put some pressure on here and saying, hey, well, if it's here, let's negotiate the details. If the votes are here to get this done, let's hash out these details. And if not, let's just move on, and I'm okay with the stadium not being in DC myself. I'm not emotionally attached to DC, obviously.
Right.
I've seen several stadiums move out to the suburbs, and I get it. People don't like that either. But if you're not going to offer them a good enough deal, guess where they're going? These are largely privately owned teams and franchises. Okay, I know it's a public trust, but they're privately owned. So you either sweeten the pot enough for them to stay downtown, or they're going. And that's just the facts of life, unfortunately.
So a few points, right? So number one is there's some, because me and you talked about this before we start recording. There's a few things that can happen here, right? Josh Harris did not buy this team, and the entire ownership group, Josh Harris, Mark Ein, Mitch Rails, DC guys through and through. Okay. They grew up here. They went to games at RFK. They want the stadium in DC.
Yes.
They did not pay $6 billion and then are going to spend another close to $3 billion, probably a little over that when it's all said and done, to build a stadium that's not RFK. They did not buy the team to do that. Okay. In the same token, part of the deal to buy the team, I believe, is the land that's right next to Northwest Stadium, which many people have pointed out. One journalist specifically is Maryland is the path of least resistance. This land is right next to it. Maryland would put together, even though Maryland's going through hardships themselves in terms of finances, join the club. They would have a deal together probably within a few weeks, right? And it would be significantly better than what DC is offering. And, Josh Harris already has the land. He's got, it would probably be a quicker turnaround. And, it would probably be a better stadium overall because they get more public funding.
Right.
So if you're willing to spend on paper, right, on this term sheet, 2.7, and Maryland throws in, just say an extra 500, even an extra $1 billion into this deal here, that's a kick-ass stadium. That's truly state of the art. And if you look at the stadium that the Bills are working on right now, you look at the stadium the Titans are working on, look at the Rams stadium. I don't know that that's going to get done in DC, or a stadium like that. So, but you go to Maryland, you're going to get a much better stadium, I think. You're going to get a lot more public funding. It's not RFK. It's not.
Right.
And again, you're going to have to get infrastructure, Maryland to pay for infrastructure, or you're going to have to fit the bill for infrastructure to get the metro line that's about a mile and a quarter away from the stadium. You're going to have to get that much, much closer, more like a quarter of a mile, no more than half a mile, because people like taking it, but it's not the main mode of transportation, right? Because people are lazy and don't want to walk, especially during the wintertime. It's not ideal, but still.
Right.
Yeah. So you're going to have to pay for that. And that's going to take a few years in itself. But path of least resistance is Maryland. It's a lot harder working in DC. Stadium turnaround usually is about 2 to 3 years, but with DC, it's going to be about, probably like 5, which is why it needs done now. And I meant to mention this earlier. Part of the reason this could have been done a long time ago, right? But federal government held this up with getting DC the land back to lease out. And as soon as that was done, I guarantee you Harris picked up the phone and called Mayor Bowser. As soon as that was done, I guarantee it, because this got approved, I think, in January, and April there was like, hey, there's a deal. So it had to
Wow.
be done very quick. There had to be like stuff in principle already agreed upon and so forth, which is why they were able to announce this so quickly. But Harris, in fairness to him, he has been waiting pretty much the day since he bought the team to have this done.
Yeah, agreed. And you know, I know people will say, "Hey, let him fund his own stadium." I get that emotion too. Ultimately, there's no perfect answer here.
Nope.
There is negotiations, there is leverage, there is each party, that is DC and Josh Harris, doing what is best for them, all things considered. And there's not unlimited time to work with here. Okay, Washington just is not and should not wait forever. The Commanders, I mean, on DC to figure this out. Listen, we've seen politicians put this off for decades. Okay,
Yep.
I mean, you look over at Oakland, for instance. Okay, with the baseball team, we've seen governments put this off for years, and it's just not right to expect that, you know, Josh Harris coming in with all of this new kind of love and more momentum than I think he thought he was going to have with a good young
Mm-hmm.
quarterback here to just keep putting us off. So that's just not going to happen. It's either going to be in DC. If it's in DC, you're right. It's not going to be as good of a stadium. It's just not, between the money available there and between the physical requirements and limitations. It's not going to be as good of a stadium, but it'll be in DC, it'll be RFK, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, and that's worth something. Emotionally, heritage, tradition, it is worth something to have it right there. But at a certain point, time wise, money wise, if it's not there, you go to Maryland, you get the better stadium, you know, right next door to where they currently are. You're gonna get a much better stadium. Life goes on.
Yeah, and I think that's where the majority of people, I would say probably like 80% of the people want it. It's the
Okay.
people that it's a shorter commute to Landover that don't want it, or the people that live in DC that are like, I don't want to pay for it.
Right.
Those are the people that don't want. Everyone else and their mother wants it in DC at RFK.
Yeah.
Just that's what it is.
Yeah.
But
Totally understand.
yep.
Absolutely.
All right, Ben. Anything else for our audience?
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We covered 3 different topics tonight. The uniforms were the best part, the most fun part, but everything else is important too. So we got more stuff coming. Barring any news on either the stadium or Terry McLauren extension, we're going to go back to the roster, work on the defensive side here in a couple of weeks. So keep looking out for that and getting ready for the regular season, which is not far away.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Please make sure you're subscribed, like, comment, and subscribe if you could. Please turn on notifications, and you'll get notified when. I mean, Ben, you can talk about other videos that you're posting on the channel here, but certainly you'll get notifications when we post Commanders related stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you
That's it,
all.
everybody. Thank you
Yep.
so much for watching.
Y'all have a good time. We'll probably be talking defense, defensive line, secondary, some conglomeration of that. So we will see y'all next time.